No one's going there. She's got a small store. And she said, well, because we don't get authors, we just get actors to portray them. Or we do dead author events. We hold seances and contact them.
Welcome to the 3% Podcast. This is Chad Post. I'm here with a million people. I'm just going to name them all off and then explain this. First off, Tom Roberts is here from Albertine and from New Directions, as always. We have Mark Haber and Jeremy Ellis from Brazos Bookstore in Houston, Carolyn Casey from Coffeehouse Press, Stephen Sparks from Green Apple Books, and Naja Marie Aidt, our Danish writer that Open Letter is publishing her new novel, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and you may know her from the short story collection Baboon that came out from Two Lines Press a couple months ago. And we are all in Asheville in a hotel that looks strikingly similar to something from The Shining for the Winter Institute, which is the ABA's annual gathering of 500 booksellers who get galleys, who find out about authors, who are doing their own panels and information about how bookselling works. So we thought we'd gather everyone together and have a little conversation here as a podcast to talk about what Winter Institute is, how it helps you guys, and also talk about literature, talk about Naya's book, and have a little fun. First off, I'm going to say one thing that Nate can use as his pull quote. So Caroline and I at breakfast this morning were talking about awful, shitty terms that people use in describing books like luminous and
necessary.
Necessary, like as if there are books that are necessary. And one of them that came up, I snuck into because I'm not supposed to be here, so I'm crashing, and I snuck in as a bookseller to the rep pick thing that there's this luncheon for 2 hours in which every 15 minutes a different rep comes and sits at your table and pitches you books one after another. It's pretty intense, and then they move on. And the Hachette woman, I shouldn't have said that. The Hachette woman came and sat down, and the first thing she said is, "This book is a tour de force." That's it. I was like, God, I'm not going to make it through this.
Necessarily luminous.
Which we were joking that there should be a book that's like a light that you just say is necessary in the dark and luminous. So
I think they had that book in Pulp Fiction, I think.
This is true. So you might want to, when you guys speak for the first time, you might want to identify yourself. I'm going to start with you, Mark, since you just spoke. Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit, have you been to many Winter Institutes, and what is your
I might
goal?
be the best or the worst example. I'm Mark Haber at Brazos Bookstore in Houston, and it's my first Winter Institute. I've only been kind of in the book world for about 2 years, so it's my first, and it's amazing. It's incredible.
You've been, Jeremy?
This is my fifth this year. So I've been in bookselling for 20 years, I guess, now in Texas, and have been in charge of stores for the past several years. So I love to come. This is my favorite event of the year, hands down.
Why is it your favorite event? Or what do you guys get out of it?
Because I get to talk to you. I get to talk to like all the people who I don't get to ever see. And Stephen here, we've been friends on Twitter for a year probably, just talking back and forth about books, and it's an opportunity to have face-to-face contact for really the only opportunity over the course of a year.
I'm pretty sure that you, Stephen Sparks, are the number one bookseller that I know that people say, I know him from Twitter. And that and never met him. And Kenny. Kenny Coble. So how many times have you been here?
This is like my second year. Last year was the first year.
How do you like it?
I like it. And like it's going to sound, maybe it'll sound bad, but I like the fact that you can find those people who you know from Twitter or whatever, that you don't, or Tom, who I don't see very often, from New York, and also that you can sort of like juxtapose yourself, and you find the bookstores who are sort of your equivalents elsewhere, and you find those people.
So it's like BEA used to be, but now...
Yeah.
This is one of the best parts of BEA, the way it used to be, have come here, because this is really the opportunity to sort of self-sort and to find, like you said, Green Apple and Brazos have a lot in common. We, have New Directions, and Albertine now, we actually have a lot in common, and our approaches to the shopping and to the whole sort of experience, and learning about new books and figuring out, sort of what the cool stuff is that we need to be talking about coming up next.
So aside from getting the books, and we'll get to you in a second, Naja, about giving your presentation, which you haven't done yet, so you're going to have to wing like what this is going to be like. However, aside from the book part, you guys also have a lot of panels and events and meetings that help with like bookstore business. Is there anything from that angle that you guys have found particularly interesting this year? Human resources, Steven?
Upselling for children.
That's happening right now. We should have just crashed that.
The education, it's interesting. Some of the times the education is really pertinent to what we're working on or what's coming up in sort of the immediate future. But often, it's like you go in and say, okay, I'm doing all the right things, and I need to not do these things. And, it's not really relevant, but it reinforces that you're doing the right thing, or, sort of says, hey, I'm really on the wrong path, or... So even if it's not particularly important to what you're doing right away, it gives you a sense of where you are.
It's pretty interesting. So what is your impression so far, Naja, as an author to this wonderful experience?
I went to the gym. I went to the spa.
Nice.
I met a lot of nice people. But I only got here last night, so my impression is not so vivid yet. But tonight, I'm going to meet a lot of people. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so Naja's going to be part of, in like 3 hours, the author reception, in which 70 authors sit on the outside of the ballroom with booze and some snack things and signed books for all of the different booksellers who are here that want to get their books signed. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know how you found the room.
Do this?
How did you find us?
Wait, and he has a whiskey.
Yeah, what is going on here? Brad is crashing this as well, but maybe he'll come up in a minute. But so you'll have the chance to meet. We have like 90 galleys sitting there waiting for you to sign and talk to individual booksellers. So hopefully, I don't know if you have any reflection on that experience or what it means to you as an author to be able to meet the booksellers.
It means a lot. I did a small tour for Baboon in the fall, and it was a great experience to visit bookstores all over the country. And I think the connection between writer and bookseller is important. And, and also for me, in order for me actually to get inspiration about American fiction and poetry, because I've only been here 6 years, so I'm still new to the new scene or whatever. Yeah.
Very true. I have more questions for you, but since you guys haven't spoken, Caroline and Tom, you guys are from the publisher side and have both been here for numerous years as sponsors, who then get to do things. Do you want to explain what you get to do as a sponsor and how it's important to you?
So there are different levels of sponsorship, and when I first heard about Winter Institute 4 years ago, this is our fourth one. We decided to come into mid-level, which is not as big as Random House and not as small as what Europa used to do, but now they're doing it. So the big draw, the reason we come is to meet booksellers in a better environment than the massive floor of BEA, where we would stand at a booth, which is awful. You just kind of have to wait for people to come by. It doesn't work. So here you get to meet all kinds of booksellers, and there's no booths anywhere, so there's no noise. There's people from Random House here, but they don't have the physical presence of what they have at BEA, and so it sort of levels the playing field. We are treated as equals with Random House for these 4 days. We can take authors out to dinner, or take booksellers out to dinner. If we have authors in town, we can do that. But they also do this thing called speed dating, which is... And Chad witnessed this, and I really wish he hadn't sat there and listened to me do this. But
you did a good job. You guys and Milkweed were the two best.
Yeah, I got them both today. You guys are fine.
Yeah, that's true. Out of the 6 I saw, I did not see yours. Yours sort of been probably the most spectacular.
So for 2 straight hours, we go from table to table, 6 tables in 2 hours with a little break in between. And for 15 minutes, you sit and talk to booksellers, 7 or 8 of them assembled around a table, eating their lunch, which is a little awkward. And we just pitch a couple books that are coming up in the near future from New Directions. We also... And I hope this won't have to be the case, we also have to sort of introduce ourselves. We know a lot of booksellers here, just from the Winter Institute and just, from other things we do to reach out. But there's always new ones. Stores send different employees. Stores open, stores close, stores change hands. And so we have to, unfortunately, sort of introduce ourselves and give the whole, history of New Directions and what we do and what we're trying to do. And, half the time that turns people off because, I met the guy from Brazos Bookstore today in LA, and it's like, we don't do architecture books, so, we're not going to have anything to say to him that's of any interest. Sometimes you meet somebody from Utah who runs a Christian bookstore, and again, yeah, Bolaño is probably not going to sell well for that.
Thomas Merton all the way.
Thomas Merton, though. Yeah. And Barbara, I will say, my boss, is very good about picking up on those cues and be like, oh, but you can sell Neruda, or you can sell this. And there's always some way you can, build a relationship with these booksellers. But yeah, the speed dating is terrible. My voice is scratchy. You repeat yourself. You sound like an idiot. It's really unfortunate.
How was your speed dating experience?
I love speed dating.
I can imagine that you would be maybe the best at speed dating.
It's really fun. I think it's really fun because, coffee house books are not for everybody intentionally. If we publish something that everyone loves, I would consider it a failure. And so we have a very idiosyncratic character, and so you get to meet the booksellers whose independent bookstores character actually meshes well with yours. Most people are not people I want to hang out with, so we probably don't have the same taste in books no matter what, and that's fine. And it's really great. We have a second book from an author who was a Indies Introduced pick that Jeremy did last year. And to see, some people we know love Valeria, but a lot of people I didn't know liked Valeria. And so it was really great to get that kind of feedback from people and realize your reach is actually a lot broader than you think it is, which is fun. And yeah, BEA is the absolute worst. If you haven't been, you can just see the class based on the carpet thickness. So where we are, it's like gauze. But Random House, you could lose a shoe in the plush. And you sit there, it's terrible. Everyone comes up to us, and I'm sure you get some of this too. Do you have YA? No, we don't have YA.
How many apocalyptic books do you have?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we're not for everybody. And so this lets you actually have conversations with people who do care about what you're doing, and that's really fun.
You still go to BEA?
We go on and off.
Yeah.
We skipped last year for the first time, and it was the greatest thing ever because standing in the booth is the worst. I say you get BEA legs where you have this massive edema and all the fluid in your body ends up in your ankles.
You need the thick carpeting.
Yeah. You do. But the thing about BEA last year, we just had meetings instead of having a booth, which was really helpful. I think we'll switch back and forth. Chad and I did ALA together last year, which was that as the trade show nadir for me.
That's quite literally true. Although we had a very good time.
We had a very good time. We really scared those librarians.
We did. Somehow we've managed with our three publishers are here to have three of the more misanthropic people in publishing.
I was just telling Jeremy, though, I think that means that we're actually the least cynical people because we care if it's done right.
Yeah,
I will. Years ago when I was at McNally Jackson, and for anyone who's met Sarah, she can be just incredibly, optimistic about the future of the world and about humankind and all these sorts of things. I tend not to share that outlook, but I think she overheard me recommending Haber and Maria's book to a customer, and then after the customer left or whatever, and she's like, Tom, you don't like very many books, but when you do, you really love them, and it shows.
Yes.
And that's, I think,
that's what matters.
Exactly.
If you love everything, you actually love nothing.
Right.
That's one of the interesting things about the rep picks because everyone sits down and and obviously you're picking out your best, but it's like this book is amazing.
Yeah.
And after 2 hours of that, or even after 15 minutes of that, your eyes
like white
glaze
noise.
over. Yeah.
Today, we've been pitching in Enrique Villamata's book, and he can be accessible, which is a word I really don't like using, but it is, in his case, true.
Luminous.
But the one we're publishing in June is really not. It's full of references to very obscure European writers and, a very, in-depth exploration of Marcel Duchamp. It's not easy. And for the first time in, 4 years of doing the speed dating, during the presentation, I just started out with, look, this is literary, and it's not for everyone, and it's not going to be a bestseller. But if you have customers who like this kind of thing, it could be for them. And you turn people off, but whatever, you're going to get the other people more interested.
The best part about it for us this year is that we're doing a book with little free library. So I just depress the shit out of everyone for the first 5 minutes of the presentation. Then you get to be like, cute boxes full of books, and everybody who doesn't care about what you're doing lights up, and you get them back for a second, which is really nice.
The Ingram rep that came to my table had 12 books. He was Ingram whatever publishing services. So it's not even a publishing house, but a billion publishing houses, and they're presenting a few. He's presented some mystery. He's like, this is one of those dark mysteries that's really horrifying and has this horrible twist at the end. He's like, but next I've got this other book that's very uplifting and sort of like chick lit, and he goes on about that, and everyone's sort of glazing over, and he's like, I've got a book about cats. Give that over. Like, immediately, everyone at the table is like, oh, this is great. We love cats. Whereas, how do you pitch your book, Naja?
You pitch my
Cats.
book. You're my
I know.
publisher.
I have to do this. Like, I want to hear how you describe this.
Well, so this is going to be the first time I pitch it in English.
Excellent.
Okay, so it's about a guy called Thomas, and he loses his dad. His dad dies in prison, and he hates his dad. And the death of his father is the beginning of a horrible time in Thomas's life. So he enters a crisis, and weird things starts to happen in his life. So there's this noir feeling to the book as well. It's not crime fiction, but it's
There are crimes.
there are crimes. Yeah. That's the pitch.
I'll read it.
It's a great book. I'll say my pitch to this is to turn everyone off and depress them. Is that there are very few moments, like for people who really like characters or like don't like to read books that have characters they don't like, they will be turned off a bit because most of the characters are very hard to like. Like they're and most of the time through the book, I feel like you dislike a character for things that they're doing and then wait for something bad to happen to them, and that bad thing will happen to them, and it'll happen in spades. And it makes it really interesting to watch
The
it all
only bad
unfold.
character is a boring character.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. There are no boring characters. There are just people who do mean things to each other.
So, Jeremy, I wanted to ask you because part of the reason we came and started coming and still come is because we believe in this idea that independent bookstores and independent publishers have a necessarily very close relationship, but that it's one that needs to be strengthened constantly. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Michael Reynolds, who got me to come here. He went in 2007 or 8 or something, and then the next year we started coming. And he's like, yeah, there's no independence here at Winter Institute. You got to come. It's great. And so we started coming, and now everybody's sort of coming. And he said, yeah, we sort of been overshadowed. And he's like, I never should have started telling you all to come. So I wonder what your impression is over the years, how it's changed. I mean, it's only been 10 years total, but if your impression is that the independent publishers have more presence here, and what that's done in terms of the way that the conference is held and the discussions that happen in terms of independent publishing and how you all
It's made it a lot more interesting for me. I mean, and for I think a lot of indie stores, you know, we sell a lot of New Directions, we sell a lot of Open Letter, we sell a lot of sort of small coffee house and sort of small weird books that are awesome. And we see them now. I mean, we see you guys, and you sort of talk to us and pitch to us more directly, and that's easier. I mean, you guys have great reps that come and you know, sort of present on your behalf in the store. But I like to hear it from the horse's mouth, and just, you know, having the interaction is really, I think, better. And, you know, the opportunity for sort of the stores to kind of get together and sort of reinforce. You know, Stephen's always telling me, you know, he leads me in a lot of ways. Like, oh, you should read this. Have you read this? And sort of exposing that kind of thing. Yeah. And that didn't happen so much at the beginning. At the beginning, it was much more like a BEA experience where it was the big publishers and they're going to come and they're going to pitch to you. And
I think independents weren't allowed to be here for the first few years, or it was cost prohibitive and like they weren't invited. I think it was like I remember when this started because I wanted to come and cover it as like a journalist, and I couldn't do that either. But it was set up so that it would be mostly the big publishers for a while.
Well, I think it was set up as like, because BEA is set up to pitch fall books, and they hold it in June or end of May, early June for the fall, and then this was set up to pitch late spring books.
Well, originally, I mean, all the education that is here used to be at BEA.
Right,
you would go like 2 days early, and they would do all this education. But people stopped doing it because it got so expensive. And I think when BEA moved back to New York too, there was sort of a resistance to, you know, the hotel fee, basically just staying. You know, it's an extra $1,000 to stay 3 days to get the education, and you know, stores didn't want to do that, so that they broke it off was sort of an effort to be cheaper and also to get out of the din of BEA. You know, I don't even know what the hell I'm supposed to do at Book Expo anymore. I go and wander around and see you guys, but it's just like a trip to New York.
What you should do is come to the 3 panels that I am taking care of at BEA, including, this is going to be an official announcement, hopefully by the time this goes live, but the Best Translated Book Award winners will be announced on Wednesday afternoon at BEA on one of the stages. And then there's going to be a translation panel on crime fiction and a translation panel on non-crime fiction, in which
non-crime fiction being a genre.
Non-crime. Well, I wanted it to be whatever, and they're like, but what about these publishers that are big ones that pay us lots of money? Can we get one of their books on here? It's like, no.
That's awesome.
They can have a crime book.
I need to be on this panel. The only thing worth doing at BEA as a bookseller is coming to the New Directions party.
Can I tell you, the first year that I crashed that first year, I met Will Evans at that
we
party.
met there. We sat in the back drinking some of Barbara's special whiskey.
It was the most. I felt like more of a bookseller in those 2 hours hanging out in the back office of New Directions than I ever had in my career. So
that slush pile is awesome.
It's really amazing. Yeah.
Well, we do it that way. We no longer go to BEA at all. I don't even make a trip up to Javits. I don't see the point. So we just invite every bookseller that we like from across the country
Love it.
to our party. It costs us a fraction of what it costs to actually go. And we're all happier at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we get to meet people and talk to people, and Francisco Goldman will be at our party, or Patty Smith will make an appearance.
Patty Smith at your party.
And that's so much better than anything BEA offers. I mean,
we
have a pile of galleys in the corner, and that's it. Done.
I always go to BEA as a member of press, so I get to wander around and go to the press office. And for a while, it was pretty cool because it would be like all the reporters and reviewers from around the world. So I just pitch stuff to them there, and then just go walk around and then leave and go to the parties. And it worked out perfectly. But now there's even fewer people from the press that actually go. It seems like, or they don't want to be there either.
Last year, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's just a strange conference.
It is strange, and it's kind of blah. But not being in New York, it makes it, I think, like you feel some pressure to go every so often to just remind people that you exist. I always say that the difference between us and New Yorkers is we know they're there. It's really important. But last year we didn't have a booth, and there's this grove of trees with benches outside by the side of the Javits. We had meetings out there, and it was lovely because you could have a real conversation. No one wants to have a real conversation in what's like a giant airplane hangar, basically. It makes it so much more fruitful and really fun.
Like we're all just shitting on BEA. I hope Steve doesn't listen to this. I think BEA has a function. I think it's become diluted over time, and they're still trying to figure out how to make BEA unique and useful to everyone, along with Winter Institute, and that's a hard balance.
I think BEA is really important for some stores. For stores that I get salespeople who come to me. The big houses know who we are, so they're not interested in talking to me. They've actually told me, "Don't schedule meetings. We're not going to remember you." Like, we're not going to pay attention. So I'll schedule those meetings later. I'll send emails. But stores who never see sales reps and who don't get ARCs and who don't have relationships with publishers because they're just too small or they're in weird places that are hard to get to. For them, it's that's their real opportunity to engage in the industry.
And if you sell a lot of books about cats or, what not to wear, or James Frey made me an ice cream sandwich at BEA last year.
Going gluten-free?
You really had a James Frey?
He made me an ice cream sandwich that was snickerdoodle with salted caramel or something inside. It was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad he's having a career.
My panel got disrupted. We had some panel, and I forget what it was, in which I started complaining about Mitch Albom and everyone else in the world and did normal, shitty ranting. And only 20 people are there because it got blocked or everyone that was heading to it kind of got sidetracked by Grumpy Cat.
Yes.
It was taken over, and they all got stuck in the Grumpy Cat experience.
More people.
That's like a big metaphor, right there.
I know, really. It's like my Grumpy was real.
Yeah, exactly.
That Grumpy Cat line had 400 or 500 people in it. It was ridiculous.
That cat can't write.
Damn it. You sort of hate
That's
Grumpy
BEA
Cat.
in a nutshell right there, though.
Do they do things like this in Denmark?
Yes.
What is it? Have you been? And
Yes.
How does it compare?
It's like a farmer's market on a bad day,
Are there grumpy animals there?
Who Yeah, they have booths and grumpy animals.
Grumpy publishers.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the writers have to, present their books in the middle of chaos. And no, it's no fun.
What are y'all going to do next year because this is the last year it'll be in New York regularly. It's going back to Chicago.
I really liked when it was in Chicago before because people hung around there. It was easier to hang out with people because there weren't people going back home.
Yeah, everybody's
that was there. I think there'll be fewer publishing people that will be attending. So it'll be kind of interesting. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see how it's changed. But back in the day, it was always in Chicago instead of New York because it was the only center the convention center was the only one that could hold everyone on one floor, all the exhibitors. And that was when everyone exhibited. It was 5 days long. It was painful. But there's tons and tons of people. And that was where I was with Delkey Archive, and we had my last booth experience ever was in Chicago, and we were placed behind Harlequin.
Nice.
And you had to walk through Harlequin. It was when they launched their NASCAR romance series, so there's a huge sign that said she has the need for speed. And then you'd walk through this pink carpet that's this thick, a foot thick, losing your high-heeled shoes, and then you'd hit Delkey Archive and be like, well, all that romance stuff is over. Welcome to the real world.
This is a book from Lithuania.
Yeah, from Lithuania in which everyone dies.
Exactly.
And no one's happy.
Those are the best books. Those are the only books worth reading.
They are necessary, absolutely necessary. And human. They're very human.
And even a touch luminous.
Yes.
Anything else to add? I feel like we're not really doing our duty to talk about literature and translation this week. But
I feel like this is interesting to go on top of our last one, too.
Oh, can I ask the booksellers here? I only hear the pitch I give at each table during speed dating. How many translations do you come across? No one pitches translated books? Well, you're pitching one, Karen.
I didn't tell people it was a translation, though.
Oh. No, we don't
that's
either.
An interesting conversation, actually.
We don't do that either.
Yeah.
If I tell them it's in translation, I say she lives in New York, she was raised in South Africa, she speaks fluent English, she's not weird.
But isn't it? We have an author named Enrique Villamatas.
Yeah.
It's obvious it's translated.
Yeah.
Only if you're racist, you can totally be American.
Right. Well, Laszlo crashing a Horkai.
Exactly.
These are things
Well, this is your opportunity to explain to people how the names are pronounced, because very often that's the stumbling block. Someone's not going to order Krasnohorkai if they don't know how to say his name.
Yeah.
Or Welbeck. We were having this conversation the other night. I feel like that is a legitimate stumbling block if someone comes in asking for a book by this French guy and they're trying to and you're
Do you think people don't ask for books because they don't know how to pronounce his name?
I do.
Yeah.
That's
Or
crazy.
even on an unconscious level, I can't pronounce the name, so the book's got to be hard.
Right.
Yeah. Just
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously. Even.
I've heard people on a call-in radio show I was on. The last call was someone that called in who said that they couldn't read books in translation because they couldn't pronounce the names in their mind, and therefore it was just impossible. And my response was, just call him Tom. Who gives a shit? It's just a word. And they were immediately like, this show is now over. Thank you very much for joining us.
I couldn't pronounce all the names in Savage Detectives. I just closed it. It was too difficult.
I got really confused.
Yes. But you guys might have been the only one that was, doing New Directions that was
pitching.
translation.
You were the only ones that pitched a international work of fiction to my table. No one else did anything like that.
That's not true. When we had consortium pitching your book.
Yeah.
And that's it, I think.
Wow.
We had two of our four. Two of the three novels were not American. Both with Valeria's name is easy. Cunnen's name is not easy if you don't know how to pronounce that. But I don't think people are intimidated by someone whose last name is Jones.
But even Eimer,
Eimer, no one can pronounce Eimer's name.
I can't pronounce it.
So yeah, she went on a radio show of some note in New York, which will remain nameless. And one of his really great questions was, how do you pronounce your name? Are there lots of people in Ireland named this name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard hitting.
Oh, man.
The interview is off.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add to this. If anyone else does.
All right. I have a bit of news.
Okay.
And I told Chad all the details of this that I will not get into because it's petty and ridiculous. So I decided to do the bookstore. Albertine wants to do an event about Michel Houellebecq and his new book, Submission. And Houellebecq doesn't travel. He does not do appearances. This is just something that will never happen in a million years. But So the French novelist Catherine Cusset lives in New York, wanted to do a sort of discussion. She wasn't quite sure. She wanted to maybe do a book club for Soumission. It's now our best-selling book in only 3 weeks. I mean, over 6 months. But yeah, we're selling more copies of Soumission than any one Patrick Modiano book. So we wanted to have a discussion, and so we were talking about it internally in the store, and at some point I was just like, I am the most qualified person to talk about Welbeck. I've been defending him to everyone I know who will listen for years. I have been called horrible names by friends of friends who don't understand how I can read him. So I'm going to be moderating a panel discussion about Soumission and about Welbeck's books in early March at the bookstore. I believe the date is March 10th. So please, if you're in New York and you want to hear me rant and apologize on behalf of Michel Welbeck and his work, it'll be interesting, to say the least. And I think we're going to talk very briefly about the books and just open it up to discussion, because I really want to know what customers think. There are a lot of French readers who I feel have never read Welbeck for whatever reason. In France, he's just as reviled as you could possibly imagine. Even after he won the Prix Goncourt, didn't matter. But there are a lot of people now reading him for the first time and starting with the new book, which I think is weird. And I'm very curious to hear what these people who have bought the book from the store have to say about him. And for anyone who didn't know, he was on the cover of Charlie Hebdo the day that the attacks took place. That's why his book gained some notoriety. Secondly, it portrays a France in the near future that, and we talked about this already in the podcast, but a Muslim political party takes control, and a version of Sharia is instituted in France. And people have issues with this book because of this. Anyway, so if you're in New York, I believe it's March 10th, but or 11th. Please come by, see me, and hear me try to moderate. I will not be speaking in French if anyone is.
Damn it, that would have been really fun.
We do all of our events in English because the idea is to share French culture with New Yorkers and with Americans, not the other way around. If you want to learn French, you can go to the Alliance. We're not there for that. So, anyway,
cool. I remember me and Michael Reynolds had a huge, long Facebook debate about.
I actually tried to look that up.
Did you find it?
I found it, but Michael is no longer on Facebook. All of his comments are completely gone.
So it's just the two of us defending that arguing. Book to no one. it's like that Garfield without Garfield.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
It's really strange. Yeah.
I remember that went on forever.
It did. It went on for a long
hours.
time. In fact, when we were trying to figure out, and I still need another panelist for this event, I joked that I should just invite Michael to come and talk, because I know he doesn't like him, so I would like to see him.
Is an appropriate word in this case.
I also don't think he's read him, which is kind of the problem. I want somebody who's read him but doesn't like him. Anyway, any other events, news from the world of bookselling or publishing that anyone cares to share? Nothing?
I don't think so, but you're supposed to rave this week.
I'm supposed to rave. So, I've never listened to the other version of this podcast that comes out once a year, which is on music. And I'm never asked to be on it because I do not pay attention to contemporary music. I still listen to Led Zeppelin and The Clash and things that are 10 years old. But I did listen to the very beginning, only to say that this inspired me to rave about an album that I've been obsessed with lately, which I only discovered because I was talking to a bartender about it, which is how you should discover all good things. So I'm sitting in the bar one night, and I'm waiting for my beer, and I'm hearing Pink Floyd, but it's not Pink Floyd playing it. And he's like, oh, this is the Flaming Lips. They did this limited run thing. And I was like, wait, what? I immediately went home, found it, and downloaded it. It's amazing. It's the Flaming Lips with Peaches and Henry Rollins doing the speaking parts of Dark Side of the Moon. And it's a wonderful album if you've never heard it. Then I discovered that they also decided to do King Crimson, which is even better. So
I don't even know what that is.
King Crimson was a weird psychedelic sort of... how would you describe them? Like a weird mix between kind of like Pink Floyd, but a little more... like old Pink Floyd with Syd Barrett, kind of.
I was going to say more political somehow.
And a little more political, and also like the music itself is just sort of darker and heavier. It's not heavy metal, but it's getting towards there. But also just really trippy, like in the weird sort of Rush way, where like there's like these big metaphors for things that you don't make any sense. Anyway, Flaming Lips doing cover albums. They're great.
Nice.
Hopefully we can find one of those to like put at the beginning of this for our music. My rant is lost all of its steam over the past day and a half but I'll let you guys jump in on it. Is the Kanye Beck thing was going to be my rant, and now everyone's ranting about it, so I feel like my rant's lost its thunder. But if you don't know, Kanye's pissed that Beck won Best Album of the Year instead of Beyonce, so he went on a diatribe about how Beck was ruining artistry, or didn't respect artistry, which got me upset because I don't think Beyonce writes a song or plays an instrument, whereas Beck actually does those things.
All of those things.
All of those things with regularity and well. So it was sort of frustrating to see like the commercialism. And then now there's this backlash where there's a Change.org petition saying that Beck should give his Grammy to Beyonce, and they want it taken away.
For what?
Yeah. Because he doesn't deserve it, because no one knows who he is.
Because she's the underdog.
Oh, Lord.
First of all, I don't think Beyonce needs Kanye West to help her
Beyonce's
out.
face when that happens is like, Lord, take me out of this room.
Her and Jay-Z, I don't know if you've seen like the little gif of them like just looking horrified as he's standing up to do whatever. And it's like, oh, no.
God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was very upset about that when I read about it, because I thought it was stupid, and it just makes a joke out of it.
And Beck is now still supporting Kanye, saying
Yeah.
he's
He's
a
being
genius.
really
He's just a class
Beck
act,
is,
yeah.
of course, a genius and worthy of all the awards that he doesn't ever get.
Total number of writers on Beyonce's album and total number of writers on Beck's album. Those are 5 reasons why Beck deserved the Grammy. It's kind of a
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
are
there's
the numbers?
It's not numbered, but it's probably like 20 writers on Beyonce's album and 1 on Beck's album.
yeah.
It's just
Kanye's
that.
last album had 49 songwriting credits. Beck has Beck.
Yeah.
There's an example
but
with the
screw
lyrics.
artistry.
That's
Lyrics,
not artistry.
pretty funny.
Plus, if you want to feel really depressed and also think of palm trees, you need Beck. Like, that's my go-to. It's like crying in the sunshine.
Crying in the Sunshine is a good name for this podcast.
My Penn Bellwether award-winning poetry collection, Crying in the Sunshine.
I have one more question that has nothing to do with international literature or this conference in any way. But now that I'm working in a bookstore again, and I'm the most technically savvy person, I am in charge of playing the music, and we use Pandora, and I'm very curious to know what other booksellers choose, because I get sick of things really quickly, for one. 2, being a French bookstore, I think everyone expects us to play
Edith Piaf.
French jazz and Edith Piaf, and I'm just so sick of it.
And you're just playing the Flaming Lips cover in Kim Kim.
If I could get away with that, oh God! If
The
I
French
could get-
60s pop on Pandora is a great station. You turn right into that.
No, I usually end up on the. This is really not appropriate for a very quiet bookstore in the Upper East Side, but Yesayer, the channel, or Beirut. Beirut is great.
Yeah, I had Beirut on a lot of our stores' playlists
Okay.
before we went to Pandora.
Yeah, we had been, I will not actively confess to anything illegal, but we had not maybe been compliant entirely with ASCAP rules. And so this past year we have gone in, done Pandora, and are trying to figure it out. And just really, we're picking one list and really just seeding tons of music into it and letting it...
Is there a reason you guys use Pandora instead of just streaming Spotify?
Because Pandora has a pro level thing where they're paying the fees for the public broadcast. I don't know
I
if
think Spotify
does
does.
Spotify
Yeah.
have it too?
We use Spotify.
We
We
use
actually
it-
got an email from like an ASCAP lawyer at one point. Like it's one of those sort of like they just generic blast,
Sure.
and they're like, "You're a business, and we're just going to assume that you're using Spotify, or because the email address of the account isn't associated with the store."
We use it because we use Sonos for our speaker system, and so I can control the music from my phone.
Yeah.
It's really sophisticated, and so Sonos allows you to use Pandora. I don't think
Spotify has a thing now too.
Do they?
Yeah.
All I know is I'm now going to tell people that they can't play music in the office because it's an ASCAP violation.
I play music in I sometimes with our interns when I want to try and break them, I'll play some really weird shit, like sort of loud enough that they hear it. And I've had multiple ones who just turn on and like, what are you listening to?
Exactly.
Like, you have very odd taste. Like, it's just Beyonce, dude. Like, whatever.
That's when the store closes, and I'm sure you guys do this too. Like when I'm like taking care of things, and I'm like so sick of listening to the calm, quiet music. My go-to for whatever reason, and I think mainly because it annoys my colleague, is I put on Das Racist, who I think is.
Oh yes,
Yeah, that would be great.
absolutely.
When I worked at Schiller
Racist.
Books and Music in Grand Rapids, we got in trouble once for playing Neutral Milk Hotel too loud on a Sunday. Someone came and complained because it wasn't religious enough for a bookstore on a
Jesus
Sunday.
Christ.
It's a certain kind of religion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now that was our half music podcast.
There we go.
At this point,
You've participated in a quasi music podcast.
yes.
Excellent.
Although none of the music I've mentioned is made in the last 5 years. So.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you all.
This was fun.
Thank you.
I will
Read
say,
Rock, Paper, Scissors, and Valeria's new book.
Story of my teeth.
and Enrique Villamata's Brief History of Portable Literature.
And go to Tom's event.
And go to my event. And what else? Good luck tonight on your
Thank you so
charming
much.
booksellers. I'm done, basically. I have to do like some other things tomorrow for the focus group sessions.
groups.
But the speed dating is done. And
What is the
I couldn't
focus
be
group
happier.
thing?
Focus group is actually fun. Focus group is you get to ask booksellers what they think about stuff, basically, so you can sort of poll them and hear what people think about various like event things, marketing things, whatever. You know, do you want catalogs, paper catalogs? How much do you want galleys? What do you want? I stole some good ideas from some other people last year because the booksellers said they love that X does whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Best focus group story I have. I was in a room with a big publisher and a very small bookstore, and her comment, the bookseller's comment was, "Y'all need to publish less books because I don't have time to look at your catalog.
That's awesome.
have fewer books, please."
I was going to say fewer, not less.
Wait, hold on.
I was quoting.
Yes, I know.
No, Sparks and I have the best
Oh yeah.
story last year from the focus group. So we're sitting there and
And I just crashed yours.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to be assigned. You're given a table number and a room number, and you go in, you sit down, and you could be sitting at a table with Harlequin. You know.
God, poor Harlequin is the butt of
I know.
every joke.
They make way more money than
Yeah,
all of
all of
us.
us,
So.
yeah.
Like,
They don't
I will say-
They can take it.
No.
I was in the galley room and I picked up a book that looked semi-interesting, like some sort of like memoir of the war or something like that. And I'm reading the back. I'm like, oh, this sounds fake. And then I saw the Harlequin there. I was like, oh God, no.
no one
Didn't
saw
even take a picture.
Anyway, so we're in this focus group meeting, and booksellers from all over the country, including this. Where were they?
Montana.
Montana.
Yeah.
And this woman saying that, no authors are touring to rural Montana. Missoula, we'll get some authors, right? But this one was like eastern Montana, over by the Dakotas. Just, no one's going there. She's got a small store. And she said, well, we don't, because we don't get authors, we just get actors to portray them. Or we do dead author events. We hold seances and contact them.
And Barbara, of course, was just like, "Oh yes."
This woman was dead
Yeah.
serious.
Where's
Seances.
I'm going. Give me a book. I'll book a flight to that. I'm on my way.
In any given week, there's F. Scott Fitzgerald is in town, or
Totally.
I'm doing it at my school. It doesn't matter if I get authors or not.
We're doing a book on the Fox sisters, who were the three women sisters in the 1800s that started spiritualism and supposedly heard these knockings that they communicated with the dead, and they were like 14, 16, 18 years old, and became internationally famous for being able to communicate with the dead. And we're doing events with them, and might have to seance them in. I think that might be a good. There's a huge amount of mediums and spiritual stuff in Rochester, so we can find one of these people.
Jeremy just put seance events into his to-do list.
Yeah. We will do something with that. Just give it to Ben and he'll run with it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to FaceTime in or Skype into that.
This reminds me.
Just spirit your way in, man. Come on, just for that. Yeah.
I somehow ended up watching Ghost after the Super Bowl
I'm
ended last
sorry.
week. If you haven't watched it in a long time, there's the seance scenes with Whoopi Goldberg. And that is a bizarre movie. That's all I'm going to say. But maybe you should. That's your research. You should watch Ghost again to understand how to.
I do love Whoopi. Almost kissing a Demi Moore. You think it's going to go. You think it's going to be, and then suddenly.
It's a really, really bad movie.
True story.
Really great note to
I just
end
like
on,
that they
isn't
killed
it?
the president from Scandal.
That's right.
He gets impaled
He's the
from
bad
the window.
guy. He's the bad guy.
Tony Goldwyn.
That's right. All right, that'll do it.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Haunted
Thank
me
you.
as a child. The
Yeah, that guy
my
is
train
creepy.
guy. Yeah.
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 I
All
could
right.
see
We're
that.
talking about ghosts.
Nate's gonna cut all this anyway. So.
Yeah, he's going to cut all this part of it. There's not even any sports references.
Nope.
It's just that he can cut, so he'll have to cut something.
All right. Well, thank you all. Let's go get a drink.
They need to stop playing with us. We ain't finna play with them no more. Flawless Beyonce video. And Beck needs to respect artistry, and he should have given his award to Beyonce. And at this point, we tired of it. Because what happens is, when you keep on diminishing art and not respecting the craft and smacking people in the face after they deliver monumental feats in music, you're disrespectful to inspiration.